All right, I'm gonna read here. Here we go. So I've been on the Bloomington City Council since 2004. As part of my job, I found myself in many kinds of meetings, the regular sessions held in council chambers, televised on public access, and ad hoc meetings with city staff, officials from other jurisdictions, and petitioners of all kinds, developers, neighborhood associations, interest groups, and various individual citizens. One day a man spoke before the council. I don't remember the issue or his position. All I remember is I disagreed with him vehemently, and he was wearing a suit and tie. I was going to emphatically rebut him from the dais, but then it hit me, what will people say if I do that? By the way, the man in the suit and tie who shows up here is not the man I'm thinking of. I sort of like what he has to say. But that's when it hit me, and I had this epiphany. Steve, you're a council member. You have a vote. What are people going to say if you complain here? It's as though you have no influence. And that's when it hit me that the expression of my anger would be the expression of my powerlessness. In every dispute I have ever seen, the parties that were disputing were asking variations of one of two questions. Why can't you see why I'm right? And I'm sick of arguing, what is it we can agree upon? Agreement versus vindication. In my best moments, I've sought agreement. In my worst, I've sought vindication. The third lesson I've learned being a council member is that facts are in the eye of the beholder. You can claim that something is true, and the first thing someone else will say is, that's what you think is true. Why is your version of truth any more valid than mine? In the end, it doesn't matter what's true, it only matters what people agree is true. Finally, why do meetings suck? Because they go on too long, because some speakers annoy you, or are whiners, or are really offensive, or interrupt constantly, or go way off topic, because not everyone is treated equally, and because people leave bearing grudges. So my fourth lesson was that Henry Robert was onto something. Even in regular sessions of city council, I found myself occasionally personally affronted. For solace and advice, I turned to the agreement that council adopted by ordinance for the running of its meetings, Robert's Rules of Order. Henry Robert may have been a brigadier general in the Army, but most of what he did there was engineering. It was a disastrous attempt to lead a Baptist church meeting in Massachusetts, after which he resolved to engineer himself a more effective way to run such meetings, and thus his famous rules were born. Any meeting is better with basic rules like address one issue at a time, only one speaker at a time, limited time to speak for everyone, and you can't speak twice to an issue until everybody else has spoken once. Most important, separate the issue from the individual. Robert teaches us that. Everyone wants what's best for the city, or the family, or the group. Even someone whom you think is the hugest idiot, deep down thinks, I'm doing what's right. You have no right to question their motives for speaking publicly. Even if you're the only one present who thinks what you think, remember that you have rights under Roberts to be heard, to protest, to seek to convince, to understand fully the question under discussion. Every member of the body is obligated to know the rules and to protect the rights of all members. And so the elements of any good meeting are rules of order agreed to by the whole assembly in advance, an agenda, a gavel or a talking stick or whatever you want to call it, and a presiding officer. The presiding officer wields the gavel, protects order, sets the agenda, and thus controls the discussion. The worst meetings I've ever been in, and where the worst local politics come from, are badly chaired or not chaired at all. Robert's rules are not arbitrary efforts to squelch dissent. These ideas are good in informal as well as formal meetings. Informal meetings are much more awkward to implement rules of order because everyone feels like it should just be casual. But casual meetings tend to go on twice as long as formal meetings do. So ask, what power do I have? If you feel angry about something, ask yourself that. If you're an equal member of an assembly, invoke your rights as a member, such as set forth in Roberts. Outside of formal political bodies, meetings are not usually conducted among equals. You could be a student, or you could be in an office meeting with your boss. In these cases, you have fewer rights. The presiding officer may also have the power to expel you undemocratically from your position. But what about a church group, a neighborhood association, even an intense personal conversation with friends or family, maybe just 3 people or even 2? If people bicker incessantly, it's usually in meetings like these. In civil society governed by laws preventing violence, even if you're the only person in the room with your opinion, you should assume that you have at least these rights: to be heard, to protest, to seek to convince, to understand the question. To review, take this hardened advice from a humble public official. The expression of your anger is the expression of your powerlessness. You can seek vindication and live by yourself, or seek agreement and live among others. It doesn't matter what's true, but what people agree is true. And most importantly, if your first agreement is not the rules of order for seeking further agreement, you risk everything. Thank you.